It is always an absolute delight to bring on the voice of the NBA, one of the most genuinely good human beings on the planet, and a man who absolutely knows what he's talking about when it comes to NBA basketball. Mark Jones joins us next. But for now, let's talk some Golden Days. Here we go.
They always find something to nitpick, and that's because there's expectations for us to win. It was a pretty crazy night.
Let's go. In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. 'Cause I get what I want and I like what I see. If you got
Oh, that means we're almost there. Mark Jones in the house. I know you hated and so thank you for joining the Golden Days. I'm Cyrus Saatsaz. You can follow me on Threads and Instagram at DogWild, over on Twitter at Surf Journalist. Before we bring Mark on real fast, today's episode is brought to you by our official sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Football is back, folks. From the preseason NFL to college kickoff, Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And if you think you know your stuff, get in on the winner-take-all $300,000 NFL Survivor Pool for the upcoming season. And when the game's over, pour yourself a stiff one, light it up, and head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use the promo code BELIEVE. That's the name of the network, BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. And let's bring on the program, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mark Jones. You can follow him on Twitter at Mark Jones ESPN. Although I don't know if that's what you want to promote these days for your social media. I'll let you handle that part of it. But Mark, it is an absolute pleasure to see you. You're in Miami, Florida, or in that vicinity at least. How the hell is your summer going, and how the hell are you doing, brother? Great to see you, man.
Man, great to see you, Cyrus. Just enjoying a little bit of downtime. It feels like NBA Summer League in Las Vegas and the California Classic ended last week.
Yes.
But took a nice little overseas trip to Dubrovnik, Croatia, and Florence, Italy with the family. Oh. Great food, great relaxation, and got a little culture from the two wonderful cities, and in Florence and Dubrovnik, and had a great time. So it was fun to be able to watch some of the Olympics in the same time zone as they were playing the games in Paris, which was fun. It gave them a nice primetime feel. So back, and boy, that Olympic game basketball competition was really something. So been enjoying the Olympics and ready to move on to college football soon.
Yeah, some of my fondest memories, I've made 2 trips to Italy, and the second one, I actually had money. The first time was right after college, and I just spent a month backpacking, renting apartments. I spent a week in Florence. It is divine. The food, the culture, everything was just memorable. So congrats on taking some time away with the family. And I haven't done Croatia, but I've heard great things about it. But I know people aren't here to talk about our vacation stories. Let's talk about the Olympics. It was happening not too far from where you were vacationing over in Paris. And Steph and Curry. I mean, you were texting me after those incredible games, and I don't blame you, man. I was actually waiting for it because I know how much you love Steph and Curry. You've called some of his biggest games ever. Your reaction to just the gravity of that moment, and where does that rank to you among all-time Steph moments, basketball moments? Just give us your feelings on an incredible gold medal for U.S. and all those incredible performances.
It was wild. I mean, that every time I see Steph go off like that, so I think about the 54-point game that he had in Madison Square Garden that I had the pleasure to call with Doris Burke back in the day. Oh. But, in amongst his NBA greatness and now his first trip to the Olympics, being able to finish off in a gold medal game the way that he did was unbelievable. And if you think about, the 6-game journey, right, and even before the 6 games that they played in the Olympics, the run up to it, the 4 games they played against South Sudan, Serbia, Germany, and Canada, Steph never really looked like he had one really good game against Serbia. I think he had a 24-point game against Serbia in the first meeting in the Abu Dhabi game. But people were people have amnesia. They're like, oh man, Curry hasn't played. He hasn't shot well yet. He looks out of rhythm. He looks out of sorts. I'm like, are you really worried about this guy? And then the Serbia game happened where he hit the 9 threes, and the championship game happened. The gold medal game happened where he hit 8 threes, and he ends up shooting 49% from 3-point territory for the entire Olympic tournament. And like people never seem to learn, but they should by now. That last game side was unbelievable. Just the last 2.5 minutes. And I think I've watched it probably 14 or 15 times already. I've hit the rewind button on my screen, and just the one thing that jumps off the page at me in that last one that he made, there's a snapshot of KD who had just given the ball up to him, and KD and LeBron are wide open on the weak side, and Steph has, I think, Yabusele and Fournier on him, and he jacks that shot up. And in that snapshot, I thought to myself, imagine the French coach saying, hey, let's just blitz Steph and live with KD and LeBron being open. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about his greatness and his gravity at the offensive end of the floor. And it went in,
Yeah, it went in. By the way, did you see that brief moment when Steph, and I thought this was, I don't think it's gotten the attention it deserves. Part of the reason why I don't think more people know about it is because of how tight NBC has been controlling the media rights, right? The NBA is much more freewheeling. Like they're cool for the most part, not universally, but for the most part with people, taking screen captures and republishing videos on social media. NBC does not play that game.
Yeah.
So there's this 8-second clip of Stephen Curry, and it's on my Threads account I don't know if my account's going to get suspended for this or not, but I had to post this of Steph doing a Chappelle impersonation. It was 2 minutes, 22 seconds remaining. Team USA, I think, is up by 8 or 9 at this point. It is far from a complete game. And the players are coming around in a huddle around Steve Kerr. Anthony Edwards is trying to peek his head in there around the huddle. And there's Stephen Curry just suddenly panning in. The timing, the comedic timing is perfect. And he's doing a robot. Did you see that?
I missed it.
I will message you. I'll message you that clip right when we're done. In fact, maybe I'll do it when you're answering the next question, so I could so you could actually react to it. But it is unbelievable, and I thought it just. He's doing the robot, and he's just doing this, and the camera's panning, and then the shot fades while he's doing it, which was that's where the comedic timing was perfect. So they cut out in the middle of it. It was amazing. And I'll send it to you like literally right now. The next time you answer the question, so you can see it. Yeah. But it was incredible. But I thought that moment it was a very Joe Montana-esque moment, because Joe Montana, for people that don't know, this is a very old reference here. I apologize, but in Super Bowl 23, during the Joe Montana's final drive to win his 3rd Super Bowl, and I'm sorry, Mark, if you know this story already. I'm guessing you do. He randomly tells the huddle on this final drive to win that, oh, look, there's John Candy in the crowd, right? And it lightened up the whole mood. Right. All his teammates said the stress went away after that. And I feel like Stephen Curry understands the gravity of the moment in that regard. And it's just, who compares to him? Like when you look at the annals of this game, you've covered this for a long time, and you're as much of an expert as anyone. Like, who does he compare to? Is he like the best point guard at this point in your life? Like in terms of legacy, where is he at for you, Mark?
Yeah, this really caps it off. I mean, he's got to be a top 5 all time, I think now, especially when you look at the way that he's transformed the mentality of basketball right now to the point where logo threes are not a big deal anymore. And we are redefining how we look at a good shot versus a bad shot. And that moment was top 5. I mean, I've watched Olympic basketball. Those shots by Steph Curry, I'll give you an interesting story. I spoke with Doug Collins, who was a 1972 Olympian, former player for the U.S. Olympic team, that 1972 team that controversially lost to the Russians, and on that controversial ending where they put time back on the clock 3 different times. And
do you agree that it was controversial, by the way, or because you used the air quotes? So
I do.
You do? Okay.
I've watched that a million times too. There's no way that we should have lost that game. I mean, they put time back on the clock for no good reason. But I spoke to Doug in the wake of Steph's finish against France on those 4 threes, and I asked him, I said, have you ever seen anything like that? You've seen as much Olympic and NBA basketball as anybody else. And he says, just unbelievable that in that moment, for that gravity, what was on the line, for him to make those shots. And I think one of the storylines that is a little bit overlooked in the moment too, Sai, is that he had a little bit of a turnover thing before the first one that he made.
Right.
So
You're
there was an element of atonement and redemption in there too, in the way that he finished the game, which was even more icing on the cake. So, I think about some of the great Olympic moments, and the margins of victory in some of the previous Olympics have been right around where these ones were. And we've had great moments with the Vince Carter dunk, and LeBron's had great finishes. Kobe had that memorable 3-point shot and one to ice the game against Spain in 2008 and 2012. But that last 120 seconds by Steph Curry was probably at the top.
Absolutely, man. And we're joined by Mark Jones, the voice of the NBA. I cannot be more honored and flattered to have you on the show, sir. By the way, I just texted you the video, so let me know what you think when you let me know when you watch it.
Yeah. And, I was going to say, too, I was speaking with Brandon Payne, Steph's longtime trainer. And he said, they put in 6 really good weeks of work leading up to the Olympics, beginning in Las Vegas, and then, let him go over to Abu Dhabi and then play in Paris. But he was not surprised that Steph ultimately got going. He was a little surprised that it took a little bit longer than it did. But, he's never had this much time to really get ready, because the Warriors are historically playing deep into June, or at least late May, and he was really locked in for this Olympics, and I think we're all happy because of the type of person that he is, that it ended up the way it did for him.
100%, and he's just such a good dude, one of the best ambassadors basketball could have for the sport. It's absolutely amazing. I'm going to pause the recording so you can watch. All right. So Mark, I just hit the pause button on the recording, so the audience, it won't look any different to them, but you just watch that clip now of Steph pulling the robot. How ridiculously funny is that? I mean,
I'm dying, Si. I'm dying because he, like you said, his timing was perfect. He goes through the whole routine, and it's a 9-point game with 2 minutes to go. He starts doing the robots, and Anthony Edwards is listening to coach, and it's a perfect example of Steph Curry being in the moment. How many times have Warriors fans and NBA fans en masse seen him on the bench during a timeout? It looks like he's staring into space, right?
Yep.
But he's really absorbed in the moment, and it really speaks to why he's so great too.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
It's
but
a pleasure.
That's funny. That's an all-timer.
It's insane. And I'm still like puzzled why that has not become a viral thing. And I'm guessing it's because people have tried and it's been flagged. It's incredible. Mark, when I saw the Olympics, and especially when I saw the duo, and I know that the focus has been the trio largely of Steph, LeBron, and KD, because it might be the last time we ever see these three. These three have been the faces of the NBA for probably the last 15, 20 years, if not more. I mean, LeBron, it's the ageless thing for him is just a whole other discussion. But I bring more specifically LeBron up because watching those two play together, and they seem to have fun, and they clearly have chemistry. You saw Stephen Curry calling. There was a report that he actually asked Steve Kerr to call a pick and roll for those two late, I believe, in the gold medal game, just because of how effective and unstoppable that play is. And it brought me back to Joe Lacob. This was back, January, February, I imagine, because the trade deadline is usually early.
Floating out there,
where he was trying, and look, the Lakers actually allowed the discussion to reach LeBron's camp, and LeBron shut it down right away. But Joe Lacob did at least broach the idea of making a trade to bring LeBron to the Warriors and unite him with Steph. And at the time, I think a lot of people were kind of, I don't know, puzzle's the right word, but it was an eye-opening move, right? It was just, it was something that was potentially unheard of. And now thinking back, There was a little genius to that. I don't want to. I don't want to feed Joe Lacob's, light years ahead type.
I get it.
Like arrogance. I don't know if that's the right word, but the point is,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts now? Because now that we saw it in the Olympics, I want to see it happen. What do you think, Mark?
I had always imagined what it would look like with those two guys on the court in big games, and we got a preview of it at the Olympics, and kind of wishing it might have happened now. Just as a what if. Because the greatness between them was evident right from the very first game when they played Canada in Las Vegas. I was in the stands of that game, and you could tell that they were on the same vibe. And I love that Steph. When it came to real testosterone time at the end of the game, said to Steve, "Let's run that too small play, that empty corner pick and roll," and they ran it 4 times in a row, and it ended up in great shots and 3-point buckets for Steph. And, LeBron deferred when he had to defer. Steph deferred when he had to defer. I think that they each realize and respect and know how to manipulate the other person's gravity on the court. And I think the only thing that I'm left with now, Sai, is that this didn't happen in 2012 and 2016 and 2021 in Japan, and we got it this time around, because who knows what it would have looked like. I mean, we still, we won the gold medal the last 5 times. It wouldn't have made that kind of difference, but aesthetically, to experience the type of moments that we had in that championship game against France was just magical. It leaves me yearning for NBA basketball, even though those two won't be on the same court.
Absolutely. I'm jonesing for it. I cannot believe we've got over a month. I don't know when exactly, but we got a month and change, I believe, until training camps start opening. And I don't know what I'm going to do until then. I'm
and one last thing too I wanted to bring up was, in watching that game, and like I said, I've watched it over about 7 or 8 times. Steph actually turned the building against France. Like, you've probably seen some of the viral translations in French and in Mandarin and in Spanish, and the French translation was my favorite when they said, "Oh, that devil Steph Curry is hurting us," and you could see the reaction of the fans. They were, as they say in French, "Zut alors," like, "Oh my God." What now?
It was very Rocky in Russia beating Drago. Got the entire country to turn around and support him. And to me, that's a testament to Steph's greatness. It's why, regardless of everyone else, I may occasionally or rarely or however often I critique, you don't see me critiquing Steph, man. He is on a whole other level. And he just, it's just, I feel like it's a once in a generation type thing when you have someone like him come along, where even the timing works out, right? Because you brought back those old, those previous Olympic games, the ones where Steph did not participate in. And a huge reason for that was because he was busy in the middle of a dynasty. Like, he kept having all these really deep runs year after year, where his season wasn't ending until late June. And he doesn't have the Jason Tatum physique where, you can, or Drew Holiday or any player from the Celtics, where, you can, your body can probably handle the rigor of going that late and then coming right around. Like with Steph, he had the ankle issues, and he's a 6'3" guy. And so he was preserving himself in the middle of a dynasty, but at the same time, it worked out, right? Here he is at 36 and he steals the moment
with his
again.
skill set. Who knows? Maybe, I mean, listen, Los Angeles 2028, probably not, but who would say no if he said he wanted to play, right?
Who are you looking forward to in that regard? Speaking of 2028, if you feel like it's not premature jumping ahead,
no. Anthony Edwards has got to be my answer. Anthony Edwards, like he's shown flashes in some of the world championships. When, albeit we finished 4th last time, I think he's got that star quality and the ability to carry us the way that, Steph, LeBron, and KD have. It would be Anthony Edwards. I think Paolo Banchero will probably be ready for prime time. Great call. He's got some FIBA experience in his background. Tyrese Halliburton is still going to be very young and very experienced by then, because he'll have gone through a World Cup and an Olympic run. And, Devin Booker is still only going to be what, maybe 30.
He'll be young enough. Yeah, he'll be young enough.
29. I mean, and I love what he did. You heard Steve Kerr talk about him being their unsung MVP. The fact that he just accepted his role, a guy that scores 24 a game for the Phoenix Suns during the regular season and playoffs, taking this lesser role, subordinating himself to playing, lockdown defense, getting his straps out, and knocking down threes when he had to.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah. Chet Holmgren, another one.
Oh, Jesus. That's another one. You're right. That's
yeah. And he's played FIBA before in the past against Wemby when USA Basketball defeated the French national under-19 team in the FIBA World Cup. I want to say it might have been like 3 years ago or something like that. But he's ready too. I think Chet's going to be a big part of that. If Embiid, if he's able to hold up physically.
Right. And I'm 100% with you about Anthony Edwards. I'm all on board. I think he's the future of the game. He's going to be a mega star. He's going to win championships. He might win MVPs. I'm with you. I'm 100%. I see what you see with this kid. He personifies the next generation of greatness. What about Jason Tatum? I personally foresee, I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you what you thought about the whole game. It's an old story now, but what do you foresee this coming season? Because what I'm predicting, given the way Jason Tatum feels about how he was treated during these Olympics, and I think he's exhibited enough for us to have a good summary. I think he's going to tear things up. I think a beast has been awoken inside that guy, and if you're the rest of the game, look out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've spoken with some of his people, and he's highly motivated and highly agitated by what happened. I'll give Jason credit. He was an outstanding teammate. You won't be able to find a picture of him on the bench sulking during those 2 DNPs that he registered. So kudos to him. And in that environment, a guy coming off an NBA championship, first team All-NBA, for him to subordinate himself in that role really speaks to the type of guy and teammate that he is. So kudos to him. I think with Steve Kerr saying that he's not going to be the next cycle Olympic coach, I think Jason's going to be back, and he's going to be the alpha on that team. I mean, he's an outstanding player. And the hardest thing to do, and this is not a bailout, like it's hard for Steve Kerr to take 12 players, 11 All-Stars, and find minutes in a 40-minute FIBA game with all the pressure to win. I'm going to say it's actually easier to coach a team like Serbia that's only got 3 or 4 NBA players. You know who the 2-3 guys are going to take all the shots, and everyone else is a role player. It's actually easier to coach that way. Now, credit to Steve Kerr that he figured it out and cracked the code. But, getting back to Jason Tatum, I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play for USA in the next cycle, and he'll be there with a lot of redemption and motivation on his mind.
Yeah, and this is obviously so much of this is subjective, and we're having fun talking. But I see a lot of similarities between Stephen Curry after he won that first title, because not a lot of people were respecting it. A lot of people were thinking it was a fluke, and in the same way, I mean, Jason Tatum was the best player. I know he didn't win Finals MVP, but neither did Steph in that first title, and he was the best player on the Celtics team. Led the team in scoring, rebounding, assists. And yet he was getting DNPs. He was relegated. And part of that was the depth of the team. And, we can talk about fit and other factors, but and Jaylen Brown was omitted, right? So you're talking about the 2 best players on the reigning world champions, both having a bowling ball sized chip on their shoulder. Am I blowing this thing up out of proportion?
No, there's going to be a Tatum reign of terror on the NBA. There will be. And
that's what I see too.
I'm praying that I get the Warriors Celtics game at least once this year.
I hope so too, sir. I absolutely hope so too. You called because Miami home and you brought. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I remember, because this just naturally happens in USA Basketball. You can't help it. I remember Gilbert Arenas not logging any minutes against Mike D'Antoni and their staff when he was coaching the USA Basketball team, and Gilbert came back and put 53 up on him during the regular season, in the ensuing regular season. So, they're prideful professional athletes. You can't
champions.
expect anything less.
Yeah, and I was not sure if Boston was going to turn it around and have a shot at a repeat this year, just for the same reasons that no other team in the last 6 years has repeated.
Yeah.
And I think their chances have improved. I really do, because like you said, it's when you're an athlete of this caliber, all you sometimes need is a little motivation like this to put you on that next level. And I'm sorry to cut. I apologize for the moment ago for cutting you off there.
No.
You live in Miami, where you mentioned Stephen Curry, one of his trainers lives there and has a base there. A lot of athletes train during the offseason where you live in that vicinity. And one of those players that I think Dub Nation is very curious about, and I'm guessing the Warriors are counting on a substantial leap this year from him, is Jonathan Kuminga. We've talked about him a lot on this show, and especially both of us talked about him together, but he's entering year 4. He reportedly, who knows if it's true, but supposedly he wants a contract extension. Unlikely to get it this year. If it's going to happen, it'll probably be next offseason. What are you expecting? Or and this is strictly a personal opinion question, obviously.
Yeah,
but
he's been putting in 3-a-day workouts. I mean, he looks phenomenal. And this is a big year for him because in Clay's absence, there's a huge void there to be filled. And, he showed towards the latter part of the regular season that he became a legitimate perimeter threat, right? In the way that he shot the ball. And, I think the tipping point last year, we all know about it, the documented conversation that he had with Steve Kerr. I think it was in February at some point, said, hey, what do I need to do to get on the floor and stay on the floor? And Steve spelled it out for him. He went ahead and checked all those boxes, and he's been on an upward trajectory ever since. I think this is going to be a huge year for him. I think he sees an opening to fill there with not only Clay being gone to Dallas, but Andrew Wiggins, not quite, maybe a little bit diminished for whatever reason in the last year. So he sees the opportunity. It's a contract year. It's the perfect scenario, perfect storm for the Warriors to be able to benefit from that. And I think he's up to the task. I really do. I think everything that he's shown this summer, putting in the time, speaks to how much that he desires to be able to A, be successful, and B, get paid, and not necessarily in that order.
Would you, the Warriors had faced a very similar situation. It was a repeat of history to approximately 2013-14 when they were faced with a choice of trading Klay Thompson for Kevin Love. I'm sure there were other pieces there to make it happen, but the Warriors decided not to do that. It was clearly a wise choice in hindsight. And then they faced a scenario that I think Joe Lacob found himself seeing being very similar in fashion, where instead of Klay Thompson, now you have a young player named Brandon Podziemski. Instead of Kevin Love, now you had a player named Lauri Markkanen. If you don't mind putting on the GM hat for just a second, Mark, would you have traded Brandon Podziemski for Lauri Markkanen, or do you think, if the reports are correct, that it was the wise move to not part with Brandon and make that deal?
Well, I'm not going to pocket watch because I'm not spending Joe Lacob's money, but we're living in an apron world right now. The second apron everybody talks about, and I know that that's a big consideration. I'm always of the school of swinging for the fence and acquiring the big fish when you can. I'm in close proximity to Pat Riley here in Miami, and that's the way they've always operated. They have always deferred when it comes to the draft and package picks and go get a big name superstar, whether it's Bosh from Toronto, whether it's LeBron from Cleveland, whoever it is, Jimmy Butler. I think anytime you can acquire a star player, and especially, if you look at the timeline of Steph Curry right now, this is not a slight on Podziemski, but I think Lauri Markkanen might be a little bit more impactful in the next 2 or 3 years, while Steph, as opposed to Pods right now. So if you're asking me, I probably would have done that deal. Now, financially, the consequences of that, I wouldn't want to deal with that, but because we saw the deal that Markkanen just signed. So
it's not your money, Mark. It's Joe's money.
No.
Who cares? It's all good. It's all good. We only got a few minutes left here. I know you're an incredibly busy individual, and I can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes out to speak with me and the audience of Golden Daze here. You're also the voice of the Sacramento Kings besides the NBA. And I think the DeMar DeRozan move was huge. I think this was an incredibly positive offseason for the Kings. I also like the Davion Mitchell trade. I think Davion Mitchell has a place in the NBA. It's
Right.
unfortunate it didn't work out for him in Sacramento, but I think the kid can play and it's going to work out somewhere. He's too good of a defender and too smart of a player, I think, to not make it. But your thoughts on your Kings? They worry me as a Warriors fan.
Right.
I think they're going to be really good this year. How good are they going to be in your opinion?
Yeah, I think a couple of things about the DeMar DeRozan acquisition, and that's where I'll start. That's the headline of the summer for Sacramento. For the first time in a long time, a quote-unquote star player has decided to choose Sacramento, which is huge. That speaks to the type of culture that Mike Brown has alchemized there from a formerly moribund program 3 years ago, right? So
Correct.
DeMar, who's a 6-7-time All-Star, decides to come there. And if you look at the fit, Sacramento now, at least offensively, has the number 1 and number 2 fourth quarter scores from the last couple of years in DeMar DeRozan. If you look at the numbers, DeMar's fourth quarter scoring last year and this year are right near the top. It's at least top 10. I think it might even be top 5. And the thing that people miss with DeMar, and it's something that really flipped when he was with the San Antonio Spurs, he's a much more willing passer than people realize. He'll average about 5.5, 6 assists a game, and that fits right into the type of system that Jay Triano, who runs Mike's offense in Sacramento, does. And I think it's going to be a great fit defensively. He gives it a great effort, and I don't think it's going to be a negative at all. I think DeMar is going to help at that end of the floor as well. So that's a great move, and I know that De'Aaron Fox has been locked in all summer. He's been at his home in Houston in his home gym working out. The training staff has been down there visiting with him. Luke Loucks, former Warriors assistant coach, has been down there. He's now with the Kings. Been down there working out with De'Aaron all summer. De'Aaron's been back in Sacramento as well. And De'Aaron has that same type of pop that he did 2 years ago when, we ended up losing to the Warriors in the playoffs in that Game 7. There was Steph had that 50-piece. By the way, a lot of Kings people, we all had PTSD when Steph went off in the Olympics. It looked too familiar. But that's another conversation. But De'Aaron is highly motivated and ready to go for this year and looking at an all-NBA type of season. And he's in great health. And, looking for Keegan Murray to take another step. You mentioned Davion Mitchell. McDaniel came back the other way in that trade from the Raptors. And that could be a little bit of found money for Sacramento in terms of a long wing defender. He's not quite his brother offensively, but defensively, he has the entire toolbox to be successful at that end of the floor. And Sacramento, people overlooked it. The Kings made a monumental leap last year defensively from 24th 2 years ago to, I think we ended up 14th last year, which is, good enough to make some good things happen in the postseason. We just had a bad, terrible matchup against the Pelicans in the play-in tournament.
Well, and he had injuries. I mean, I think the injuries were even a bigger thing too.
Losing Malik Monk, Kevin Herter, you lose two key guys, and that was really crippling. So things looking up in Northern California. San Francisco,
and I really do believe, and I hate disparaging my Warriors, but I really do believe right now the Warriors are not the best Northern California team. And just the fact you brought up the De'Aaron Fox and who was last year's clutch winner, and it just occurred to me the Kings now have last year's clutch winner and this year's runner-up for the clutch award. That's insane. So 2 of your 5 players just hit it when it matters most. You add De'Aaron Fox, Keegan Murray's probably going to take a leap. I begrudgingly compliment your team because obviously this is a Warriors show. But your Kings look damn good. How did it feel, by the way? Speaking of all the PTSD of Steph, did it feel at least a little better that you could root for it this time?
Yeah. Kings fans. I mean, I'm an NBA fan first, and I'm a USA basketball fan first. But to look at some of my some of the phone calls from some of my buddies with the Kings to see Steph do what he did. I spoke with Alvin Gentry the other day, who's been on both sides of the equation with you guys in Golden State as a championship coach and with us in Sacramento now as part of our front office. And we were on a phone call just shaking our heads, just with what Steph did. He said, "Yeah, I'm not surprised. I've seen that before." So yeah, but the way he keeps doing it is just incredible, and to see the guys beside him defer to him was really kind of the eye-opening point too.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And on a very positive note to finish up the program, your daughter Sophia, who played D1 basketball. Did you play D1 in college, by the way? Was your school D1?
Yeah, I
D2?
played at York University in Toronto, and
That's crazy. So
among
it's a
career leaders and assists and steals at York University. So yeah,
Bravo.
Yeah.
You played, and then Sophia played D1 here locally at San Jose State University, where it was just a fascinating coincidence that your daughter was a student of mine for a journalism course there. Our paths had crossed years earlier, and then when I found that out, I was like, "Whoa! Tell your dad I say hello." And then anyway, so that all picked up, and Sophia graduated. She's going to come on this show next week, and she's going to be a regular contributor, which I'm really excited for. Never mind the fact that she's talented; she's been a guest before, and I think she has a very bright future if the media game is what she wants to do. I think she has a very bright future in this. So, folks, get ready to hear Sophia's thoughts and analysis. It's the analysis part that among many things that I love. She actually knows what she's talking about. Yeah. You don't get that often in this industry, Mark. Most of us are just talking heads, yapping. She actually knows her stuff.
Yeah, I love watching games with my daughter, and I appreciate the work that you did with her in class. And I'll be sitting watching a game with her. I'm like, Sophia, what did they just run? Was that a horn set? Was that an empty corner pick and roll? Was that a flare screen? How did he get so wide open? And she'd be like, "Oh, Daddy, you missed that? They ran a little flex cut. That's how do you think Steph does that? That's their pet play. What do you watch?" Yeah,
I love it. I cannot wait. In the audience, you will be enlightened and better people forward, getting her insights and her knowledge on this program. I'm stoked on that. And Mark, it's always an absolute pleasure having you on this show. I can't thank you enough, man. I'm eternally grateful. Before I let you go, anything you want to promote? Anything you want to mention that I have not mentioned? I know you have social media activity going on. Just promote away anything you want to promote.
Yeah, just say, hey, hit me up on Instagram, Mark Jones ESPN, or on X, Twitter, whatever we call it today, Mark Jones ESPN. All kinds of positivity and all kinds of good basketball talk, and that's about it. Just I got about 10 more days, 2 weeks of decompression before we start on the arc towards training camps opening up.
Absolutely. And then the grind.
I'm actually going down to, if anyone in the South Florida area is on your show, I'm going down. I'm going down to Miami Pro League tonight during the semifinals. And I'm hearing on the low that Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero and some of the guys from the Heat are going to be playing. And who knows? I hope I get a Jonathan Kuminga sighting if you're a Warriors fan. Point two.
You might.
Some guys just drop in and put a uniform on and play. You know how pro-ams are. So
and maybe they'll do the robot. I mean, it's that kind of vibe. The pro-ams are fun, man. You get that kind of scene there. I'm glad you saw that clip during the show, so you can understand just how ridiculously funny that was. Insane. And Mark, thank you so much, sir. One audience member actually asked me, I think it was on social media, will you ever do a show with Mark and his daughter on the program together? And they made that request. What do I tell them?
Yes, we will.
All right, let's do it someday. Okay, some point we'll do that. That is great news. Mark,
it's definitely a lot. Yeah,
I love it.
If my daughter wants to come on with me, I don't want.
Of course, it's up to her as well. Yeah, of course. If she says yes, it's on. Mark, thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone. Thank you again to the greatness that is Mark Jones, and thank you to everyone for joining the program today. We'll be back at it soon. Until then, bye-bye.